You're sitting across the desk from your manager. He just asked you why the project missed its deadline. You take a breath, you start explaining. The vendor was late. The brief was unclear. Marketing changed the requirements halfway through. The Slack channel was a mess. Each of those things is true. Each of them, in a court of law, would probably hold up. And as you're talking, you can see your manager's face. He's nodding. He's listening. He's writing something down. But there is a small shift in his eyes you might not catch. A tiny dimming. A quiet flicker of disappointment that has almost nothing to do with the deadline at all. Because what he was actually waiting for, what he was secretly hoping you would say in that moment, is not what you said. And here is the painful truth that nobody at your office is going to tell you. Your boss spends a huge portion of their working life sitting through explanations that sound a lot like the one you just gave. Reasonable, logical, carefully constructed, and quietly, in the back of their mind, they are waiting, sometimes for years, for one of their employees to walk into the room and say a specific kind of sentence instead. A sentence that, the moment it leaves your mouth, instantly reorganizes the way they see you, the way they trust you, and the way they think about your future inside the company. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 5 things employees say every single day that quietly drain their boss's confidence. And then, I'm going to give you the exact phrase your boss has been waiting their whole working life to hear from you. Pay close attention to the last part, because once you understand the shape of this sentence, you will be unable to unsee it, and you will start saying it tomorrow. Let's start with the most common phrase, the one that almost every employee uses at some point and never realizes the damage it does. The first phrase your boss quietly dreads is, "It wasn't my fault," or any variation of it. "I wasn't the one who handled that. That came from another team. I tried to flag it earlier." These sentences are not lies. They might even be entirely accurate. But every single time one of them leaves your mouth, you are doing one specific thing in your boss's mind. You are telling them that when something goes wrong on a thing you were involved with, your first instinct is to draw a line between you and the problem. There's a body of work, including the foundational research by Stephen Covey on what he calls the language of reactive versus proactive people, that has shown how the words you choose actually reshape both your own thinking and the way others perceive your reliability. Reactive language places responsibility outside of you. Proactive language places it inside. And here is what nobody tells you. Your boss is not actually evaluating you based on whether the failure was technically your fault. They are evaluating you based on whether you behave like an owner or a renter of the work you touch. Owners walk toward problems. Renters explain why the problems belong to someone else. Stop for a second and think about your last performance review. Were you praised for being thorough or for being someone who can be trusted with bigger things? Those are 2 very different reputations, and the one you build is decided one sentence at a time. That same instinct to draw a line between you and the problem brings us to the second phrase, which is equally common and equally damaging. The second phrase is, "I didn't know." This one usually comes out when something fell through the cracks and the responsibility of catching it was diffused. "I didn't know that was due Monday. I didn't know they expected me to follow up. I didn't know that was part of my role." Again, these things might be 100% true, but here is the quiet message your boss hears underneath. The message is, "I am someone who waits to be told." And the moment that perception lands, your boss begins, often without realizing it, to mentally downgrade you from the category of self-driven to the category of needs to be managed. Carol Dweck's well-known research at Stanford on what she calls the growth mindset and the fixed mindset is directly relevant here. People who operate with a growth mindset don't wait for information. They actively go looking for it. They ask. They check. They build their own understanding of what's needed, even when nobody explicitly tells them, and bosses can spot the difference almost immediately. The person who walks in and says, "Hey, I noticed this might be expected. Want me to take it on?" is operating in a completely different professional dimension than the person who says, "I didn't know." That mental downgrade is where you start quietly losing the bigger opportunities, and the third phrase pushes you further down that same track. The third phrase is, "Let me check with someone first." Now, to be clear, asking for input, consulting experts, and collaborating are all genuinely good things. But there is a very specific version of this phrase that does damage. It is the version where you use it as a way to avoid having an opinion of your own. Your boss asks what you think about an approach. You say, "Let me check with someone first." Your boss asks how long something will take. You say, "Let me ask the team and get back to you." Your boss asks what your recommendation is. You hesitate. And here is what your boss is actually wondering. They are wondering whether you have a brain of your own. Adam Grant, The organizational psychologist at Wharton has written extensively about how employees who consistently bring their own clear recommendations, even tentative ones, are perceived as significantly more promotable than those who only relay other people's input. Because what your boss needs, more than anything, is someone who can take pieces of incomplete information and form a working judgment from them. Constantly deferring upward to other people for every opinion signals the opposite. It signals that you are a high-quality messenger, not a high-quality decision-maker, and that difference shapes every assignment you get from that point on. If that one stung a little, the fourth phrase is going to hit even harder. The fourth phrase is, "What do you want me to do?" On the surface, this sounds collaborative. It sounds humble. It sounds like you are honoring your boss's authority. But what you are actually doing, every time you ask that question, is handing the cognitive work of the decision back to them. You are saying, in effect, "I do not want to carry the weight of choosing. You carry it for me." Now, imagine being a manager who has 8 to 15 direct reports and a calendar that is already broken in 3 places. Every single time one of them says, "What do you want me to do?" that manager has to spin up the context, weigh the trade-offs, and make a call that, honestly, the employee was probably already capable of making themselves. The cumulative cost of this across a team is enormous. And here is the brutal part. The employees who keep asking that question are usually the ones who genuinely believe they are being respectful and deferential. They have no idea that what their boss actually wants to hear is a proposed solution, not a request for instructions. There is a concept in management literature, popularized by William Onsiken in his classic Harvard Business Review article about who has the monkey, that frames this beautifully. Every time you ask, "What do you want me to do?" you are putting the monkey, the responsibility, back onto your boss's shoulders. Bosses have a lot of monkeys already. They are praying for someone to take one off their hands, not give them another. And now, the most important one. The phrase your boss has been waiting their whole working life to hear from someone like you. This is the one I promised you at the very beginning. This is the one that, once you understand its structure, will reshape your career. The phrase is not a single magic word. It is a specific shape of a sentence, and it sounds something like this. "Hey, I made the call to do X. Here is the reasoning I used. Here is what happened as a result. Here is what I would do differently next time. And here is what I need from you in order to move forward." Take a moment with that. Read it twice. Notice everything that sentence does. It claims ownership of the decision. It shows your reasoning, which lets your boss see how you actually think. It tells the truth about the outcome, even if the outcome was bad. It demonstrates learning. And then it asks for the specific support you need, instead of asking your boss to figure out what you need. That single shape of sentence does more for how your boss sees you than 50 perfectly executed projects. Because every time you say a sentence like that, you are quietly telling your boss something they desperately want to believe but rarely get to verify. You are telling them that you are not just a worker. You are a steward of the work. And bosses, even the difficult ones, even the disappointing ones, are emotionally exhausted from carrying the cognitive weight of every decision alone. A person who walks in and offers that shape of sentence is rare, and rare gets remembered. So now that you understand the kind of phrase your boss has been waiting for, how do you actually start using it tomorrow without it sounding rehearsed or performative? You don't memorize a script. You learn the shape, and then you apply it inside 3 specific situations that come up almost every single week. Here are the 3 moves. First, the post-decision update. The next time you make a judgment call on something, even a small one, send a short proactive message to your boss before they ask. Something like, "Heads up, on the X situation today, I decided to go with approach Y because of Z. Happy to walk through it if you want. Otherwise, I'll keep you posted on how it plays out." This is the cleanest possible expression of ownership. You made the call. You explained the thinking. You opened the door for input without begging for permission. This works because, as research on psychological safety by Amy Edmondson at Harvard has shown, environments where people share their reasoning openly build trust much faster than environments where reasoning is hidden behind outcomes. Second, the proactive flag. The moment you spot a potential problem with something you own, do not wait until your boss discovers it. Bring it to them yourself with a proposed solution already attached. Something like, "I noticed the timeline on the 3rd quarter launch is going to slip by about a week. Here is why, here are the 2 options I see for how to handle it, and here is the one I think we should choose unless you see something I'm missing." This single move flips the entire dynamic of bad news. Instead of being someone your boss has to manage out of a problem, you become someone who manages problems with them. The same problem, framed proactively, is a leadership moment. Framed reactively, it is a failure. Third, the recommendation default. From this point forward, whenever your boss asks you what you think, never ever start with, "I don't know" or "let me check." Start with your best current recommendation. even if you mark it clearly as tentative. Something like, "My current read is that we should go with option B, mostly because of the cost and timeline trade-off. I want to double-check one thing with the engineering team, but that is where I am leaning." But notice what that sentence does. It gives your boss your real thinking, it shows the reasoning, and it signals that you are someone who has opinions and will defend them with logic. Adam Grant's body of research on what he calls advice-seeking and recommendation-giving suggests that the employees who consistently lead with a tentative recommendation are perceived as significantly more capable than those who consistently lead with, "I don't know." These three moves will start working almost immediately. You will feel the temperature in your relationship with your boss begin to shift inside the first 2 weeks. But there is something deeper happening here that I need to tell you before you close this video. If you have ever felt invisible in your own career, if you have ever watched less talented coworkers get promoted past you while you quietly did the better work, I want you to hear this very clearly. The problem was almost never your ability. The problem was the shape of the sentences you were using to describe your own work. Talented people who use reactive language sound smaller than they are. Average people who use proactive, ownership-oriented language sound larger than they are. And over time, perception wins, almost every time. The simple fact that you are here, listening to this, learning the shape of the sentence your boss has been waiting for, means you are about to step into a version of yourself that has always been available to you. Your boss is not your enemy in this. Your boss is a tired human being, often more tired than you realize, who is quietly hoping that someone, somewhere on the team, will walk in tomorrow and say a sentence that sounds like ownership. Let that person be you. So tell me down in the comments, which of these phrases have you used this week without realizing? Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I didn't know," when you actually could have known? I read every single comment. And honestly, some of the most beautiful career turnarounds on this channel have started in the comment section. If you want to keep decoding the silent language of how power and trust actually move inside the office, stick around. I'll see you in the next one.